to God.
He's got clout.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Yeah. Maybe a little lower. Alrighty. And we now have our volume. And we have the Poetry Studio. My name is Joseph. We are going to do some poetry today. I have decided that I'm going to be doing one poem a day. It just realizing that trying to juggle multiple poems a day on this Poetry Studio could cause me to feel just a little overwhelmed, unless the energy from the chat demands it. If you are tuning in now, welcome. If you're tuning in on the replay, thank you. All the replays are available on YouTube. The first 50 are, well, most of the first 50 are behind Patreon, so become a Patreon subscriber for those, but the other ones, free for all. So, what I am going to be doing this morning, hopefully, is editing a poem for a wedding planner that I met who told me a lot about her mother and what she's looking for her mother's birthday. And it's kind of that experience. I'm going to bring down that music so that we can kind of talk more about what life is this morning. And I'm going to start by reading a poem. I don't even know what poem I'm going to read. It's really become obvious to me that it's just, I've got too much going on. And I don't really have a solution yet. But in saying that out loud helps. I got ready. I woke up 15 minutes earlier this morning with my wife. She also needs to be getting up earlier, so we both got up earlier a little bit. And 15 minutes earlier helped me get into this spot about 6:50. I was like, great. I have some time to prep. I have to spend some time looking over and editing the poem that I want to be working on for the stream, which is this poem about this woman's mother, all this whole thing. I opened up my computer, and it turns out I was in the middle of buying something from Staples for my business, and I was like, so I spent probably a good 5 minutes doing that, and it was 6:55. I'm like, well, I wanted to be more prepared at this point, but that's all right. And I started looking for the poem. Guess what? I didn't know where the poem was. Turns out that my edited poems are sitting in 3 different places. I had some that were in a pile on the floor, some that were in a drawer, some that were in actually 4 different places, some that were in one accordion folder, and some that were in another. Talk about friction. Reducing friction is important. Reduce effort. Manly P. Hall said through the great Kira the Dawn song. And I just, and part of it is that I don't have a lot of time to be able to figure these things out. Like, it's almost like one door, I work on closing one door and 3 others open. There was someone I was supposed to email for my business last night, and I'm rambling and I'm ranting, and I don't want to be like, woe is me, I don't have time, because I'm really thankful for all the opportunities that I have to be able to do all the things that I'm doing. But I'm sure that we all feel a little bit that way sometimes. But sometimes we get everything in balance. And then when it's in balance, it's in gear. And when it's in gear, it's creating. And that's what I want. But everything comes with a cost. I have 3 part-time jobs. Those 3 part-time jobs make me some money. They don't make me a lot of money, but they make me enough money for me to be able to continue doing the poetry thing. Is it that I must accept my lot and understand that the poetry thing's always going to be a little bit of a disorganized mess until it becomes its own thing? Or is it that I need to make the sacrifice? I need to step away from those part-time jobs and really dive into this, see what happens. Because it's comfortable to be organized, and you want to be organized, like to a basic level. But maybe the discomfort that I'm going to have to feel is feeling like everything is overwhelming, and I'm just kind of working through all that. I don't know. But all I do know is that I'm just thankful to be here. And yeah, that's just kind of what it is. So let me find a poem to read for us to start. Ooh, that one just. I think I'm going to do this one. It's Ode to a Desk Lamp by Billy Collins. I'm just going to keep reading Billy Collins until I finally scramble together and find, the time to organize my readings. Organize your readings. Not like I'm going to have time to do any of that today. Ode to a Desk Lamp. O faithful light, under which I have written and read for all these decades, flying saucer with your underbelly softly aglow, rising on a stem from a heavy metal base. Lamp I rescued from my old girlfriend's mother, who was about to toss you from her condo on a bluff, overlooking the ruffled Pacific. Has anyone been with me longer? Me without siblings or children, you with your kindly 60-watt frosted bulb, you who have not died like the others I knew. You nestled in a bath towel on the floorboards of the car as I backed it down the driveway of my marriage and steered east, then south down the Chew, then 4-lane roads. So many nights like this one, me sleepless, you gazing down on the page, and now on a crystal rock, a teeny figure of a pig, and an orchid dying in its blue china pot. But that is more than enough of the sad drapery of the past as I hold the present between 2 fingers and the thumb, and a blue train whistles in the distance. It's time to saddle up, partner, once I unplug your tail from the socket. Time to ride out west, far from the gaucheries of men, the inconstancy of women, and the rowdy mortality of it all, until we find a grove of trees near the river. Just you and me with our bedrolls under a scattering of stars. That was Ode to a Desk Lamp by Billy Collins. I think that I need to write through what I'm going through. I can't start the stream with a rant of, everything in my life is overwhelming, without processing it through poetry. After all, that's what I do best. And I'm not ready for this because I made a vow that I would not write edit on stream. That what I would do is I would do that before or after the stream, and then I'd be able to, come onto the stream and just be like, I edited a poem. I'm going to retype it up in front of you all. This is retyping space. That's the great thing about it is you get to see me retyping. But I'm not going to do that because I'm instead going to do this. I'm going to type a poem about how I've been feeling. This overwhelmingness that's been really plaguing me. And I thought I kind of had it down a little bit last night. Like I spent some extra hours working last night. Started going through this notebook. And believe it or not, I'm not too far from clearing out all the other pages of it. But I haven't touched, so I have 4 different to-do lists for my business because you got to have to-do lists in terms of just things that you need to get done. You have to-do lists in terms of who you're contacting, and making sure you stay in contact with certain people. You have to-do lists of the actual creative art, the process. I have someone's poem request, which I need to call about with a $20 bill sitting on a desk back there. It's all over the place. And so, let me process. The fitting song to process at that. Hi, Twitch here, Alex. I'm just going through my usual crises. There is a phrase that writers use when they have to eliminate a part of the story that isn't working for parts of the story that are working. Killing your darlings. And I'm sensing that the time is coming that I must kill a darling. Some massive part of my life And there's one part that isn't massive, but is actually the most fruitful. It's one of my part-time jobs. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't usually do 3 stanzas, but I like this. I really wanted to get this typewriter repaired in part because it is quick on the draw when it comes to typing out my signature. But I've also been recommended to get letterhead among the many myriad things that I think that I gotta work on. So, sacrifice is, I think, the theme that the poem pulled out of me. Sorry for yawning right on the stream. If you're tuning in, I'm writing a poem about feeling overwhelmed. And I'm feeling overwhelmed. You can always request a poem. You can tell me how you're feeling. If you feel like that a poem might help with those emotions. But for me, it's been a pretty, I put some extra hours in yesterday to really try to catch up on some stuff. I've had less work to do this week with my other jobs, and I still find myself falling behind. Small businesses are hard. They're hard. And I'm not saying that it's all, that I haven't done things to make it worse, but I've been recently shifting my focus to more so recognize that, I am not, that a lot of times when think I'm slacking off, it would be what I think a normal person would describe as relaxing for a certain period of time. Like, I think that my goal, if I really were to examine my goal, would be to be going 24/7, and that's not what I want. Or at least, like, from sun up to sundown. So, here's my poem, Overwhelmed. Everywhere I turn, my mind finds its limit. Brambles and rumbles of stress in a rolling horizon. I feel the feet running, but the grass moving under me, swallowing me back, swallowing me whole. There is a cliff at the end of the world, a drop, the abyss where dreams go. And she, starry sea, is demanding a sacrifice, a release. Horcrux of happiness that I still won't provide. What am I afraid of? What is my scattered soul saying when I quiet, quick to condemn myself? Fear to lose. Fear to lose. Nothing is won. Fear to lose. Fear to lose. Nothing is won. Well, I think that I need to sit with myself, especially in response with this poem, and I need to think really critically about what doesn't need to be here. And I need to recognize that there's this habit, this repeat habit. When we recognize the tendencies within our own soul, that's when we start becoming wiser, hopefully. And recognize that there is this tendency for me to overload, to add too much. Is it money? Part of it's money. I have to make a lot of monetary sacrifices, my wife as well, we are. But we're doing well, we're doing better. Frankly, I don't even know how well I'm doing because I haven't been doing my budget over the past week or 2 weeks. And we just actually kicked a new budget. We do our budget every week, month on the 15th, and it just passed, and I wasn't even thinking about it. There's that. Reputation, opportunity. One of my part-time jobs is one that I've had for a long time, and I love it. Another part-time job is something where if it really becomes something, I can work remotely. All 3 jobs are remote work. And then the third one is helping a friend. That one's the hardest, really, to handle and to grapple. Because that third part-time job, I don't really have the time to do it. But I really want to do it. Because I want to be helpful. And that one I have to do now into November. But I want to do it more after because it's fun. And so I need to sit with these things. And I need to understand, and I do get it, that this is first because I recognize the talent and the gift that I can give within me for all this. And I'm sorry if this is all coming off as some sort of dreary mess. I don't mean it to be. But I don't want this show, and if anybody has anything to say about any of this, you're more than welcome to chat. You can tell me I'm being a total self-loathing buffoon or whatever it is. And if other people have different issues. But this is a space where I get to just be. That's what I like about it, is I get to sit here and I get to create for you. And a lot of times, you know, and there's some planning to that creation. There are some things I don't bring into this channel. I wrote a poem about the president, and I didn't bring that in because that would just cause a dumpster fire. But I bring in myself. And I bring in my genuine self. We don't want toxic positivity, do we? That's not good. That's a new phrase I've been repeating more to myself. Toxic positivity, toxic positivity. And so this is my counter to my toxic positive, to potentially toxic positivity. I don't think I'm being toxically positive. That sometimes I come on this show and I'm not ready. Sometimes I scramble on 10 minutes late. I mean, I love that about it. I'm here, people, a place that we can all be genuine. And you don't even have to be. Like, you know, you can lurk in the chat. That's a great thing about the poetry studio. That's what it's done for me. Like, I didn't, you know, we're on 92, I think, or something like that, some ridiculous number. I started it as a way to write in the morning and get myself going. And it does that. And it does that in a very relatively short amount of time. I think that keeping these around a half an hour might be more the future, but I oscillate between a half hour to an hour, and if there's energy in the chat, I keep it going. That's kind of my policy, is if it's energy in the chat, great, I go. No energy in the chat, that's fine. I wrap it up around a half an hour. And so that's kind of what it started as. And now it's a place, like today, it's become a place for me to reflect and be there for me when I needed poems. Because imagine if I didn't have this space, I'd wake up, you know, I wouldn't write. I'd just continue doing business stuff. And I could do that for 4 or 5 days in a row before the weekend hits. And the weekend I'm writing. But it was always weird because in the weekend, I would feel this, like, you know, it's almost like I'm being like sucked out of my usual space and being thrown into the writing again. I didn't like that transition, so I prefer always being that writer. And every day, it's incremental improvements, and more incremental improvements reveal themselves as I incrementally implement. Next incremental improvement is going to make sure that these streams, when they are planned, are better planned. That the edits are done. That all my projects are not sitting scattered around. That this folder, which has projects in it that I don't care about anymore, I empty and I put projects I do care about in it. All those things. And then there will be another day, probably relatively soon, where I get up and it's just all mess again. And I'm going to be like, all right, what do we do next? And I hope that there's somebody eventually that's watching this that might feel overwhelmed and might feel way worse. I mean, I've been there. Feels like that the problems are rampant and there's no way to solve them. It could be a very different set of problems. And I hope that just in this moment I can be an example of, hey, sometimes it does suck. Sometimes the problems are all a mess. But you also have to A, count your blessings, B, consider your perspective. These are all very good problems to have. And then C, just tackle it. Twitter Alex says, hey, I've been there too. I think we all have. Well, I appreciate you being here and lurking through my conversation. And yeah, the miracle of Twitch is that it's I could just I could just talk it out. You know, like I have that tool now, and I'm not embarrassed by it. So, and I think that we are in a place in the world. Like I remember some of my first glimmerings, and I really won't go into them because some of them are very personal and very troubling. You got work to do. I understand that completely, Dr. Alex. But my first glimmerings of realizing what the power of the internet could be, I was dealing with a challenge in my life, a problem, and I found a Reddit community, very powerful, very unique Reddit community that particularly discussed that problem. Hundreds of thousands of people all logged on to the same Reddit community. And I was overwhelmed. I thought I was alone. And I think that that's just a miracle of the internet. I mean, that's a good thing. There's a lot of rough things about the internet, but there's a good thing. And the good thing is that you really understand what it means not to be alone. And like people before us had to be reminded of that. Like you'd be in your home, you'd be isolated, it'd suck. And then you'd have to listen to a song or watch a movie and say to yourself, oh, these characters are reminding me that I'm not alone. But those were stories, and stories are good. Stories are important. Stories help us process. But what also helps us process is actual other people. Sitting out there on Twitch, on a random little morning show where I do poetry with typewriters, and saying, hey, sometimes it all gets crazy. And then you stop, you take stock, and you revisit it. I want to thank everybody that has, is, or will be watching. Really appreciate your presence here across space and time. Want to thank Akir the Don, as always, for amazing music, which we use as part of the stream. Today, I was feeling his Marcus Aurelius instrumentals, so check out his album on the Marcus Aurelius album that he put out, Meditations 1, Volume 1. And thank you to Twitcher Alex for being a great friend while present here. We may have a few other people lurking. Thank you all so much, and we'll be back tomorrow morning with edited, prepared poems.